The Justice Department has released the partially redacted affidavit used to authorize the FBI search of former President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago home in Florida. A Florida judge ordered the Justice Department to unseal the document by noon Friday. The affidavit argues the search was necessary due to highly classified records found in boxes recovered by the National Archives back in January. Robert Costa is in West Palm Beach, Florida, with the latest.
The redacted affidavit reveals that of the 15 boxes of government records Donald Trump brought with him to Mar-a-Lago and ultimately returned to the archives in January, 14 had classified documents, some including sensitive information derived from government informants critical to U.S. intelligence gathering.
That is the linchpin of the entire affidavit. We are talking about materials that could kill people, as well as, of course, reveal sources and methods really undermine our national security.
In total, investigators found 184 documents with classification markings, including 67 documents marked as confidential, 92 marked as secret, and 25 top secret. The documents labeled HCS, referring to human confidential sources, stood out to former acting CIA Director Mike Morrell.
The ones that are most concerning to me are the ones that were marked HCS, which is a marking that indicates that information was derived from CIA spies overseas.
The affidavit underscores the alarm about the possible vulnerability of Trump's waterfront property. A Secret Service source tells CBS News that it is a private club with protection but limited background checks. The affidavit goes on to provide a glimpse into the Justice Department's sources and who might have witnessed potential criminal activity at Mar-a-Lago, noting the department spoke to a significant number of civilian witnesses. In order to protect them from intimidation or from being publicly outed, the Florida federal judge and federal prosecutors agreed on the extensive redactions. The FBI agent who wrote the affidavit also said there was probable cause to believe that evidence of obstruction will be found at Trump's property, as well as contraband, fruits of crime, and other items illegally possessed. Trump and his Republican allies remain frustrated with the search and with the Justice Department. His spokesman today saying the affidavit was overtly political. Former Trump intelligence official John Ratcliffe spoke to CBS's Catherine Herridge.
The unsealing of this today isn't going to do much to, again, tamp down the chaos, the confusion.
And Robert joins me now with more. Robert, what is the latest on your reporting?
Catherine, we're both following this story here in West Palm Beach, Florida. We were all waiting today to see what the Florida federal judge, Bruce Reinhart, decided working with prosecutors to release. And it ended up being an affidavit that was serious in the sense that it gave us more information about the gravity of this investigation. From the Justice Department's perspective, former President Trump had boxes of material that contained highly classified information that could put at risk information derived from human sources, or potentially even human sources themselves, so it's unclear about the specifics of how all this played out.
So, Robert, what's next for Trump's legal team?
Trump's legal team, Catherine, is trying to see what their next step is here beyond the filing today to provide more information about their request for a special master. They would still like to see a review of the evidence, to see the evidence return, though it's to be determined if that's going to happen.
And what's the fallout on Capitol Hill?
The fallout on Capitol Hill is that Republicans are on edge about the midterm elections. They're seeing a closer race than previously expected in the Senate and in the House. It's unclear, though, when I talked to Republican strategists today about how exactly the Trump legal challenges will play politically into the midterms. But it's a new issue that's now hovering over the political scene.
Is that an issue that Democrats take on directly in the midterms?
They're already taking it on directly. You saw President Biden yesterday in Maryland referring to Republicans who are aligned with former President Trump as semi-fascist. And you see someone like Vice President Harris framing this entire election, the midterms, as about the issue of democracy. So Democrats are running toward Trump politically in saying that he is a threat to democracy. He's someone who's mired by all of these legal challenges, including federal investigations, congressional investigations. So they are certainly running on that, though, of course, they are running on other issues as well, like their recent spending package.
Robert Costa, thank you.
Thank you.
And to break down the legal issues, let's bring in CBS News legal contributor Jessica Levinson. Jessica, just as a starting point, walk us through the 3 criminal statutes that were potentially violated.
So we're looking here at obstruction of justice, which we've heard a lot about throughout the day. The Espionage Act, which of course is broader than it sounds like, it's about more than spying, and the unlawful retention of government documents. And the affidavit here gives us a little bit more information about why these are at play, just a little bit more than we heard with respect to the search warrant. They all come down to the same set of facts, which is the former president, we now know there's probable cause to believe, took government documents to which he was not entitled, was told repeatedly, you must give them back, and he refused to do so. And those government documents deal with very important national security issues.
One of the processes that's in play here is that there will be an independent review of the records to understand what the current classification of the records is. Is that going to be a lengthy process? What does it look like?
So we don't know to the extent how lengthy that process will be, and I don't mean to obfuscate the question, but a lot of this, we certainly know, and you know better than anyone, we know how to classify documents, and we know different stratas of classification and basically how important or how top secret these documents are. But we don't typically have, I think, this type of situation where we have these documents that raise such serious issues. We've talked throughout the day about human intelligence, meaning potentially, obviously, spies that are out there and whether or not their safety would be threatened. We've never had this tranche of documents this much in a place where, frankly, they're not supposed to be at a former president's residence.
Does the affidavit begin to explain this element of urgency, why the FBI took such an extreme step to search the home of a former president?
I think it does. And in fact, I think it shows that the FBI, perhaps if it were dealing with anybody else, would have taken that step more earlier in the process. Of course, not anybody else can have access to these types of documents. But what we really see in the affidavit, I think, is what leads up to the part that's redacted, what leads up to, yes, there's probable cause for those 3 statutes we talked about before. Obstruction of justice, basically meaning he knew these documents were part of an investigation, he didn't give them back. The Espionage Act, dealing with the unlawful retention of documents that raise national security concerns. And then again, the unlawful taking of government documents, period. I think it shows that first it was the National Archives saying, we're on alert here. There's documents that you have and that we think we need. And then this going to the Department of Justice. And while they got some of the documents, I think that just raised more concern. So what was the urgency here? It was the substance of the documents and the fact that they were really dealing with a protracted series of trying to come to a consensus negotiation. And they, I think, did not believe that Trump was ever going to hand this over. And that was the exigency here.
In 2016, then presidential candidate Hillary Clinton was investigated by the FBI for mishandling classified information under many of the same statutes. She also had special access program intelligence, one of the highest levels, on her unsecured personal server. She was not charged because Director Comey concluded he could not show intent. How important will intent be in the Trump case?
Well, it will be important because when we look at these statutes that you asked me about, they require willfulness. And what we're looking at here in the information that's provided in the affidavit, the part that's unredacted, is it's starting to build a record of knowledge, of willfully saying, I have this information and I'm not giving it back to you. And that's why I actually think that letter that's in there from President Trump's attorney, where he says, I want you to include this letter if there is, if you file with the court, I want you, Department of Justice, to include this. And the letter basically says that the president has the power to declassify, not that he actually did. But what we see in the letter, I think, is harmful to Trump. It's actually showing us that there were negotiations, again, with federal law enforcement officers where they explain exactly why they wanted the information back, and they didn't obtain it. That is part of building a case for willfulness.
Jessica Levinson, thank you.
Thank you.